Hi everyone, I'm Joe Cuhaj, and welcome to part 2 of our series highlighting the fantastic hiking experiences you'll find right along America's third coast, from Tampa, Florida to Corpus Christi, Texas. Welcome to Hiking the Gulf Coast. Louisiana is known as the sportsman's paradise, and for good reason. There are plenty of opportunities to hike, paddle, hunt, fish, you name it, all across the state. Along the state's Gulf Coast, from New Orleans to Lake Charles, you'll find some amazing hikes along dark Spanish moss-laden bayous, blackwater rivers, and vast marshlands. The weather along the Gulf Coast is near perfect all year long, with only a few exceptions. The coast has a subtropical climate, which means that in the summer, a mix of heat and humidity can make for a dangerous heat index. During this time, it's best to do your hiking in the morning and stay hydrated. That afternoon heat also means that severe thunderstorms and flooding rains can pop up at any time. Keep tabs on the weather through the local media, the National Weather Service, and of course, keep your eyes to the sky for threatening weather, such as clouds that are building into an anvil shape, the sure sign of a severe thunderstorm. And of course, everybody wants to know about hurricanes. Hurricane season generally runs from June 1st to November 30th. Now, if there's a tropical depression or hurricane lurking out in the tropics or the Gulf of Mexico, simply keep tabs on its progress via local media or the National Hurricane Center and take any warnings they issue seriously. And remember, you can find complete details on the trails we'll cover today, plus many others, and additional information on hiking the Gulf Coast in my Falcon guide called, aptly enough, Hiking the Gulf Coast. Our first stop is to Grand Isle, Louisiana, and the state park that bears its name, and the Fiddler's Loop Trail. The Fiddler's Loop Trail is an easy walking hike around a lagoon filled with water from Barataria Pass and the Gulf itself. Because of the tidal flow, the trail can sometimes be moderately difficult to hike due to extreme high tides and part of the trail being underwater. The hike is highlighted by a 6-story tall observation tower that gives you an amazing bird's-eye view of the Gulf and Grand Isle itself. On the eastern side of the loop, you'll have nice views of the lagoon and pass many fishermen wetting their lines or casting crab nets. On the north side of the trail, during spring and summer, you'll be surrounded by thousands of beautiful wildflowers and see dozens of species of birds darting in and out of the thick brush, like the American golden plover, upland sandpiper, and frigate bird. Only a few minutes south of New Orleans, you'll find one of my favorite hikes on the Louisiana Gulf Coast, the Trails of Barataria Preserve. There are 3 separate trails in the preserve, mostly made up of boardwalk, that make up this easy to moderately difficult hike through the 23,000-acre Jean Lafitte National Historic Park and Preserve. What this means is you can take several different routes, such as several short segments, or you can do the entire 4.6-mile out and back, and most of the trails, as I said, with the exception of the Marsh Overlook Trail, is ADA accessible. Along most of the trails, you'll be surrounded by beautiful wildflowers, moss-draped oaks, placid green waters of cypress tupelo swamps, and the Palmetto Trail is aptly named as you walk along a path lined wall-to-wall with tall palmetto ferns. And all of the trails are lined with informative signs describing the marsh ecosystem, the plants, wildlife, and the history of the area, so allow plenty of time to take in all the information and the scenery. Next, we head a little bit west to Springfield, Louisiana, and the River Bottomland Hardwood Trail at Tickfaw State Park. This easy 2.4-mile loop begins on an amazing, high-elevated ADA-accessible boardwalk and suspension bridge high above an impressive cypress tupelo swamp and Tickfaw River itself. As the trail begins to loop back towards the trailhead, you'll have some beautiful views of a picturesque bayou. Our next stop is to the town of St. Martinville and Lake Fowles Point State Park. This beautiful 6,000-acre park offers many activities for visitors, including swimming, picnicking, and paddling. And of course, what we're here for, hiking. The best way to leave all the crowds behind is to hike the 3.6-mile Trail C Loop. This is a moderate dirt and boardwalk footpath through a magnificent cypress and water tupelo swamp, with its classic pea green water and cypress knees. The trail leaves the swamp and starts climbing up and down some ravines through a section known as the Bird Island Chute, where you'll have nice views of the sloughs and bayous of Lake Fowles Point. On this section, the path is lined with beautiful sycamore, eastern cottonwood, black walnut trees, and majestic southern oaks with Spanish moss draped branches. You can also do some backcountry camping here, with 7 primitive backpacking campsites available on a first-come, first-served basis for only $1 a night. Tucked away in the far southwestern corner of Louisiana in Cameron Parish, almost directly on the Texas-Louisiana border, right in the middle of nowhere, or as close as you can get, you'll find the Sabine Wetland Walkway. The walkway is part of the Sabine National Wildlife Refuge, which encompasses over 120,000 acres of brackish and freshwater marshland and is one of the largest estuarine-dependent marine nurseries in the state. Now, even though the trail is only a 1.4-mile cement and boardwalk path, it is well worth the long drive to visit. From the trail's observation deck, you'll see marsh grasses and plants for miles around, all the way to the horizon. Bring your binoculars and walk quietly, and you are guaranteed to see one of 300 species of birds that have been cataloged here, like great blue heron or roseate spoonbills. As for wildlife, the most common critter you'll see is the eastern cottontail rabbit. They're everywhere. And of course, there's the most popular attraction of this hike, the American alligator. These are only a few of the many trails that you'll experience along the Louisiana Gulf Coast. Hopefully, I've whet your appetite and you're ready to lace up those boots and explore those amazing trails. You can learn more about these and other hikes along the Gulf Coast and in Alabama in any one of my trail guides published by Falcon Guides, available online or at your favorite bookstore. In part 3 of our 4-part series, I'll take you to the far western side of the Gulf of Mexico and the hiking trails of Texas. I'm Joe Cuhaj. I'll see you next time on the trail.